Hey everyone, out at the range again. This is Trigger Bar Philosopher. Today I'm going to be taking another look at my Ruger SFAR, the small frame rifle from Ruger. We're going to be doing some more reliability testing. Today I'm going to look at running it on gas setting 3, but changing out the buffer weights. Okay, well, my apologies to start off with. The microphone's died, and so I'm going to have to dub over this, but essentially what I'm going to start out with is a new Geisley braided spring with the carbine weighted buffer weight in the back. And with that, I'm just going to be testing function on setting 3, just trying to get a baseline before I start messing with the buffer weights. I really want to run this with like an H3 buffer weight and make sure, and because that should lessen the recoil. I'm going to start off with some M80 ball ammo, and so 7.62 NATO, and I'm going to just be again running it on setting 3. I have a Lancer mag that I'm putting in. Everything should run, but I just want to check function with that and get going with it. You can see a little bit of the ejection patterns. They seem somewhat normal. I have tried to speed the video up just a little bit so that you're not waiting forever while I try to acquire the target, but as you can see, perhaps I should have sped it up a little bit more. But the gun is functioning. Once we get down at the end of this, I'll show you kind of what groups, but as you can tell, I'm just kind of settling in, testing, making sure that this gun is functioning okay. And again, it's on setting 3, which it's not supposed to have to be. It should be on setting 2, but I had problems when I went down to setting 2. So now I'm going to try to make sure that I can get kind of the shooting experience that I want there's two sort of ways you can tune that. One is with the buffer weight, and the other is with your gas setting. And since there's probably nothing between, or there's no way you can get between 3 and 2 because of the way they did the gas block, it's just, this is the way it's going to have to be. So again, everything worked fine. I now have put in the H3 buffer weight into here, and hopefully that should reduce some of the felt recoil and make it a more flatter shooting rifle and more pleasant experience while shooting on setting 3. This allows me to sort of kind of, if you will, get something in between and get something that is comfortable for me to shoot. I really am and really do want this rifle to work. I love the platform. I love the lightweight nature of it. I like how I have it set up now with a 3-15 scope and the Holosun 507K with the ACSS reticle on the side with an Aerosoc mount. I really think that's a pretty slick setup. I would like to get just a little bit lighter scope on there. 3-15 is a great power. I'd probably, if I could, I'd probably go a 2-10 power. The new Leopold 5 HD looks pretty good, but that's pretty expensive, and I already have the scope, so this will do for my needs. So it does go back up in weight just a little bit from this lightweight thing, but as you can see, everything's functioning pretty well with this M80 ball ammo. It's running about as I had hoped it would. I was able to shoot, 5 to 10 rounds, or I think it was 10. Everything ran as it should. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some 380 ammo. Hopefully I can add up here to the right a little bit of a picture. It's Hornady Super Performance ammunition. I believe it's a 168 grain GMX round. It's a more high performance round of ammunition, something that you might consider more match ammo quality, and we'll just see how it runs in this gun. We'll also test a little bit. I am trying to shoot a little bit for groups, and we'll see what kind of groups that we can get at the end of the video when I go down range. Again, right now testing for function with 308 versus the 7.62. In the past, the two did perform differently, especially when I was going down to setting 2. With setting 2, 308 typically would work, but 7.62 NATO would not. So I just, again, want to confirm that with a couple of different types of 308 ammunition and 7.62 NATO ammunition that it would run properly, and everything is running properly, which is really awesome. And this one, as I recall, it ends up grouping fairly nicely, and we'll take a look at that downrange. Those GMX bullets are pretty good from Hornady. I believe they still have them, but they now they're now pushing the CX, which expands a little bit better. It's their all copper bullet that just performs a little bit better. Okay, so next up, I'm going to keep on with my function testing. I'm going to try out running the Buffalo Barnes TTSX. As you can see, it's that yellow box. I think it's 149 grain TTSX bullet, all solid copper. Again, I would consider it a match quality ammunition. However, I have never been able, out of any 308 I have shot, which is not many with this ammunition, but I've never been able to get it grouped really well. I shot it with an Ruger American. I shot it with my Vanguard Weatherby, and I've shot it with this one, and none of them really group very well. And in typical fashion, Buffalo Bore typically does try to push the extremes. You can see a little bit more felt recoil on my shoulder with this. This ammo, typically, Buffalo Bore does like to load their stuff to full power and to spicy levels, and that's about what I was seeing there. But as I explained earlier, it doesn't group particularly well. So we'll see that just a second as we get down at the end of the range. Okay, so now we're down at the end of the range. In the upper left is the M80 ball ammo that I first shot while I was shooting the first buffer weight in it, which was the normal carbine. On the right is when I had put in the H2. That doesn't impact accuracy, but I am settling in. It's not a bad group for M80 ball. Certainly 1 out of 5 is definitely a flyer. Those are about 1 MOA, which is pretty good. So you get down to the Hornady Super Performance. Things tighten up quite a bit, a little bit maybe beyond 1 MOA, but you throw the high and the low off of it, and it's definitely all in 1 MOA or maybe even sub MOA, and there's about 8 or 9 rounds in there. So I was pretty excited with how it shot with that round, and seemed to like that match ammo. If you go over to the right, again, that's that Buffalo Barnes. I've just never, I think it's the overall length is a little short, and a lot of the 308 rifles just don't really like it, and it doesn't group very well. Let me know what you think. If your rifle groups great with that ammunition, please let me know what kind of rifle it is and your thoughts on that. Some of my best groups out of my bolt action are with the Barnes TTSX rifle, or bullet. So I don't think it's the bullet. I think it's their seating depth of what they're doing there. So yeah, so those are the groups that we've shot. And so we'll go back, and what we'll do is we'll put on a can. As you can see there, I've put the can on. I'm going to go back to the M80 ball. I have changed on the SFAR. I have gone to setting 2, as you saw me give the peace sign. I've gone back to setting 2. And I'm going to see if this thing runs. So in theory, on this SFAR, you should run normal ammunition with 2. If you have a problem running it, you go to 3. But then setting 1 is sort of reserved for running with a can or suppressed. I had some feeding issues when I ran on setting 1. So now again, with a heavier buffer weight, I'm going to try to run on setting 2. And as you can see here, it functions fairly well. And I'm quite pleased with how it functions, how it feels. You can see a lot of the back pressure and the gas coming back into my face. The wind is blowing that way, but there is a fair amount of gas coming back. I think it is mitigated a fair amount. So now we're going to run some of that Hornady Super Performance ammunition again. It's a red tip. It's the GMX bullet, and we'll see how it does and see if it functions and see what accuracy we can get out of this round with the can on it, and just kind of see how the gun shoots with this 308 ammunition versus the M80 ball. It looks like the ejection pattern is a little bit more forward with this, which is generally what I have experienced as I've started to as I've begun to get, you get a little bit more pressure when you add the can onto it. It changes from more 4 o'clock to more of a 3 or 2 o'clock. Again, a little bit overgassed, even though we went down to setting 2. But the gun is functioning. We're working through these rounds of ammunition, and everything ran well with that Hornady. My group wasn't well, and that's where you saw me. Next up, we've got that Buffalo Barnes, the TTSX, and we're going to run that in the rifle. I think actually when I shot, and again, I still have the suppressor, and I'm on setting 2. I actually think that when I shoot this, that first round, I was going to try to shoot in the lower left part of the target, and it was so far low and left. With that Buffalo Barnes, I saw more of a significant impact and shift of my PO, point of aim, point of impact on the rifle, versus the Hornady and the Buffalo and the M80 ball. I didn't see necessarily a really big shift, but so I had to change my target to aim more towards the center of it, and that's what we'll do when we go down range and take a look at it. All right, so now let's just take a quick look and see what we did with the suppressor on it. Here's the M80. I'm kind of chuckling. The M80 7.62 NATO. When shooting it suppressed, look at the freaking size of that group. That's 4 shots, and then that's 1 flyer. And I knew I pulled that, but dang, I don't know why it's shooting so good. The M80. Remember, I have it on setting 2, firing with the suppressor. This is the Hornady ammo that grouped so well when I was doing without the suppressor. This is how it grouped with the suppressor. And then this is that. It actually grouped a little bit better. It's like, I don't know, it's less than 2 MOA, but it's that Buffalo Barnes, Buffalo Bore Barnes 150 grain. It's none of my guns like it. TTSX, actually my other bolt action loves the TTSX round, but just not the Buffalo Barnes. I think it's the seating depth with that. And so I'll just have to measure the chamber when I do my own loads and take a look at that. But dang, that's pretty nice. Well, I think the most important takeaway though for today was that it did end up being functioning completely. I shot maybe another 50 rounds or so today, not a single malfunction. So running it on setting 3, I had the Geisley spring, have the H3 buffer weight in, and on setting 3, I ran, 20 rounds or so, ran just fine, then fired it suppressed, ran, 20 rounds, 15, 20 rounds, ran just fine on setting 2 with the suppressor. It feels pretty comfortable with that H3 buffer spring in there. The gun is still a bit overgassed, but I think that's just the way I have to run it. I think I'm getting more and more happy with it. Let me know what you think. How is your SFAR running? Is this something you would buy? Is this something you do own? Is this the way you're trying to fix it? Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.